So today I'm going to be taking some pictures for Panorama feature in Luminar Neo. This is a brand new feature, and what I'm using today is I'm using my Sigma telephoto 100 to 400 millimeter lens. And the reason I'm using that is because there's not a lot of distortion when you have telephoto, but also those photos have a much smaller field of view. So it's going to take a lot more of them to piece together to make a panorama. And I want to put Luminar Neo to the test. I want to really test that panorama feature. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take one panorama looking down this river here. I'm going to do another one that's a sweeping panorama, downriver and upriver. And then I'm going to do another smaller one upriver. Creating panoramas from several individual images is one of my favorite landscape photography techniques. Now, a lot of cameras have a panorama feature built into them, but it can be a little bit challenging to get a good result with that. And there's several different reasons. Sometimes there are certain limitations of the camera that can make it difficult. And other times you have to have the camera held really still. You have to move it just right. There can be a lot of complications. So when it comes to creating a panorama, I personally prefer the technique where I go out there and shoot 10, 20, 30 individual images and then piece them all together afterwards. So when Skylum announced they'd be releasing a Panorama Stitching Extension for Luminar Neo, I was stoked. And part of the reason I was so excited is because I've been really impressed with the other extensions and features of Luminar Neo. And Skylum was kind enough to make the beta version of the Panorama Stitching Extension available to me so I could try it out. So in this video today, I'm going to show you how the Panorama Stitching Extension works. And I'm going to use a couple different sets of photos that I took earlier today so that you can see how well it does as well. So when you open up Luminar Neo here, it's going to be under Extras, and like I said, this is available on July 20th, and it's going to be called Panorama Stitching. Clicked Install, it's all installed there, and it's going to show right here on the main catalog view, right over here. So let's import some photos. I got my photos all together here in a folder on my desktop. First of all, I want to show you a couple panos with the photos I captured today. So for Panorama 1, we've got approximately 13 photos here. Their total size is 1.03 gigabytes. That's huge. I want to push this to the max and see how it does. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click Open. And it's going to add all of these photos to the catalog. And again, I shot these with 100 millimeter for the focal length. So as you can see here, these are quite close up. These are not wide angle, these are quite narrow angle. So there's a lot of puzzle pieces for this to put together. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select one, hold down Shift, and I'm gonna select the final one down here. So all 13 are selected. We're just gonna take them, drag them and drop them right here. It's going to import them. And then right here, there are some options. I'm gonna click the lens correction. I feel like this may help with the stitching. And then chromatic aberration, I'm gonna click on that also, just in case there's any purple or green fringe on the edges. And then after I've selected those, I'm gonna go down here to start, and it's going to process. So let's see what it does here. And there we go, we've got our stitch. And I'm gonna click continue. All right, so on the next page here, as you can see, obviously it's not perfect when I'm holding my camera handheld. So some of these photos had more vertical resolution available than others. So I'm gonna do just kind of a general crop here, where I'm gonna try to get it even across the top and the bottom here. And at this stage, it may not let you do the entirety of the crop, and that's fine. I'm gonna click crop, and we're gonna go to the next step. So I'm gonna click save, and then we can do our fine tuning and use some of our other tools over here for this photo at this point. All right, so there's our photo. Very impressive. So at 25%, I see no stitch lines at all. That looks really good. Let's go along over this way too. Yeah, I see no stitch lines. That did a really good job. So what I wanna do at this point is I wanna go to the edit here, because obviously we need to do a little more of a crop on this. And we are going to do some cropping up here. That's gonna pull it in a little bit. And I'm gonna click enter. And there's our crop. I really like how it handled the lighting here too. I was kind of in the shade underneath this main train bridge right here. And then this footbridge over here was in the sunlight. And of course this part was too, but looks really good. So a couple things I'll do here. I'm going to click low for the noiseless, just to remove any noise from the photo. So I'm gonna use that extension to clean it up. So I like how that noiseless looks there, it looks great. I'm gonna add just a little bit of sharpness to it. For super sharp, I'm gonna click low. All right, so that looks really good. I'm gonna go to the develop tab, and what I wanna do is I wanna add a little bit more saturation here. I'm gonna bump that up just a little bit. We'll do 10 right there, and a little bit of the pink tint. And what I could do if I want to is I could do a white balance adjustment. This is kind of white right here, so I'm gonna click on that. I feel like I like how that looks. That looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go to export this photo now. All right, so when I go to export it, you see the size right here where it's red. So what I recall is Luminar has a limit currently on some of the size that you can export. First of all, I wanna export in the PNG format. Secondly, I need to go down here to dimensions to adjust it. So I'm gonna put this to 20,000 initially, and it's still red. I believe it is 15,000. All right, 15,000 it does allow. All right, 15,001 it goes red, so yes, it's officially 15,000 for the width that you can do. And for the depth, I wanna select 16. It's gonna give us even more color detail in that photo. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna select my folder that I currently have these in, and I'm gonna select that main directory, and I'm going to export it, but I wanna call it Panorama 1. All right, we're gonna click export. All right, it is finished exporting. Let's take a look at that photo just to see how it looks here. All right, there it is. That looks really good. Zoom it in, looks fabulous. And again, I do not see any stitching lines at all. There's no distortion either. I really love how that looks. Everything looks nice, straight along here. Kind of that vanishing point, which I really like. That's kind of what I wanted to capture in here. That looks really good. All right, let's do another panorama. We're gonna go back to the catalog here, and I'm gonna add some more photos. What I wanna do is I wanna do Panorama 3. Panorama 3 is where I took the photos panning from left to right, and I did several levels. So I did like this left to right, then I went up and did another level, left to right, and then I went down and did another level. So basically, not only do I have sideways a bunch of photos, I have several vertical levels as well. So we're gonna be throwing, let me see how many photos we have here. 64 individual photos that total 5.10 gigabytes in size. I'm going to be attempting to make a panorama with those. I don't know if it's gonna be able to handle it. And again, it is beta, but let's see what happens. And those are all of the photos. So I am going to select all of these. And I of course want to make sure I don't select from my original photos here for the first time lapse. So I want to make sure to leave those, which I believe we left off with this one. Yep, it highlighted the new photo that I added. So I'm going to click shift on this, and I'm going to go all the way up to here. And then I'm going to take these 64 files and I'm going to drop them right here. So I'm going to make my adjustments here, lens correction, chromatic aberration. Those are already selected since I've already made those my setting defaults. And I'm going to click start. Moment of truth here. Let's see what happens. I'm going to see if it crashes and burns this program or if we actually get a pano. 64 photos is no small task for this program, especially when they're uncompressed raw. And I want to take a look at my system resources while this is going. Curious to see how those are doing. So this definitely utilizes the CPU. GPU, it utilizes a little bit, about 25 to 27% for that. But the CPU is definitely doing a lot of the work right now with those calculations, which is kind of what I would expect. I'm not gonna lie, I had to walk away for a while, but that's 64 images, and that's massive. And it's not perfect, but if you look at it, The reason it's not perfect is how I took the photos. When I got to that bridge on the right-hand side, I put my camera through the rails to take the rest of the photos, so that was my error. If I had taken these photos with them wide-angle lens, this would have been a piece of cake for this to handle, but I wanted to push this program, and push it I did. And the great thing about this image is I can take different batches of these photos and make several different panos that are smaller than this. So I can make a pano of a couple bridges there, and then I can make a pano from the right of the bridge, including that river. Ultimately, I could crop this and make one really wide pano where I correct some of that bridge where it shows there where I didn't take all the photos. But still, utterly impressive. I tried doing this in Lightroom with those same 64 photos, and Lightroom said, nope, can't do it. So I find this really impressive, especially since I'm testing out the beta panorama stitching. But this is gonna be a fabulous product. I'm looking forward to using this a lot. What I wanna do here is I wanna go back to one that I shot in 2013. And this was 10 years ago. These photos are JPEGs. They are not high res. They're actually 3.19 megabytes in size. So compare those to the individual photos that were 80 megabytes in size and were raw. This should be a breeze for the program to handle, but I'm curious to see what it can do with these photos and if it can get good results with older photos that are much lower res. So for this one, I have 19 individual photos that total up to 43.1 megabytes in size. And I'm gonna go back to the catalog. I'm gonna select these 19 photos, and I'm gonna drag them down here to Panorama Stitching. I'm gonna make sure my lens correction, chromatic aberration are selected, and I'm gonna click Start. Now it should go much faster with these, first of all, because they're much smaller file sizes and they're much lower resolution. All right, so that actually did a pretty good job there. I'm gonna click Continue, and we're gonna do a little bit of a crop here. That's actually quite impressive. So, like I said, these are old, lower res photos, so we could use the upscale feature, which I might do. I'm gonna click Save. All right, so I really like how that looks. I'm going to do just a few final edits on it. First thing I'm gonna do is noiseless. I'm gonna do low, just to remove any of that noise in the photo. And then second, I'm going to do a little bit of sharpening. So we're gonna do super sharp here. And finally, I'm gonna add a little bit of color to it, a little bit of saturation. And I like how that looks right there. So what I'm gonna do at this point, I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna go to Export, and I'm gonna click Export. Now just for fun, let's go back and do Panorama 4 as well. This one, of course, was looking downstream, and it only had a little bit of that footbridge I was on right here in that final photo. Most of it was that train bridge, but I like the perspective on it, and I just wanna see how it handles this one as well. So this is a total of 10 files and about 817 megabytes. So I've imported my files here, and I'm going to select these, give them a drag down here to Panorama Stitching. Our lens correction and chromatic aberration are selected, and I'm gonna click Start. All right, so it finished. That looks really good. I'm gonna click Continue. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a crop here. Again, I did use 100mm on my telephoto lens. And of course, this is in the immediate foreground. And that was really close to the lens, so that is going to be blurred. And that's the way I wanted it. I wanted the focus to be on this train bridge. I really like how straight that is. And I like it how there's that nice vanishing point at the end. That's very cool. So I'm gonna click Save there. Now that it's finished, we're gonna do a little bit of touch-up cropping on it. So I'm gonna go over here, and we're gonna bring it in a little bit from the right side. And I'm gonna bring it up just slightly, right about there. I'm gonna apply. I'm gonna do a little bit of noise reduction, and then I'm also gonna do a little bit of sharpening. We're gonna do low here under super sharp. And for this particular photo, I want to adjust the mood on it. So I'm gonna click Mood. I'm gonna go to your creative. I wanna get kind of a retro-y type feel for it. So that 1960 right there, I like that. And I'm just gonna add a little more saturation to it and then a little bit more contrast. I wanna give it a little bit of a punch there. So I'm going to click export. We're gonna change that width to 15,000 and I'm gonna click export. And by the way, this app will be available on July 20th. So if you're currently a Luminar annual or monthly subscriber with the Pro or Ultimate plan, you'll have that extension available at no additional cost on July 20th. And if you have a lifetime license to Luminar Neo, this additional extension will be available for purchase. If you pre-order now before the 20th, you'll get a discounted rate. And if you don't already have Luminar Neo, definitely check out my link in the description below. And I also have a coupon code there that will give you an additional discount off this incredible software. I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and I hope you have a lot of fun testing this out. Until we talk again, happy photo editing.